Hi folks, welcome to our live stream. Hope you're all doing well out there. Hope you're having a fantastic week. Thanks for joining me. Really appreciate it. So yeah, today we're doing something a little bit different. We're talking about drones and their practical applications for commercial real estate. So yeah, I hope you find it interesting. This is what the agenda looks like. So it's a high-level walkthrough. As I said, it's something a little bit different. And as we go through, you'll see, where it fits into our research and what we're going to be doing, looking at drones as part of our research on video surveillance. So we're going to kick off with answering the question, why now? What are the forces that are converging to make the application of drones at scale actually start to be interesting and compelling for commercial real estate? Then we're going to look at some specific use cases, the ones that are sort of happening now. We're then going to talk a little bit about counter UAS, applications for indoor drones as well. So that really follows on from the use cases. Also, compliance and permitting, why that's so important, not just to actually, growing the market, but also to make it more, to provide it with a firm foundation. And then finally, we'll just, highlight some of the really important takeaways. So just while we're waiting for people to join, and also just a bit of housekeeping, if you do have comments or questions, you can type them in the chat. Questions we can leave to the end. I'll try and answer them as best as I can, and we can take comments there as well. Also, we are recording the session, so if you do want to share it with colleagues, you'll be able to do that. You'll be able to find the recording on LinkedIn and also on our YouTube channel. Just also want to say, this is free content that we're providing here, but it's also not free for us to produce. So if you do like it, we'd appreciate you spreading the word. It would really help us out. Thanks very much. Also, I want to say that this is not sponsored content, okay? So we're not being sponsored by any drone vendor or anything like that. This is an independent look at the applications of drone in commercial real estate. And yeah, just to say, if you like what we do, you want to get notified of new videos that we're going to post over the next coming months, then subscribe on LinkedIn, on YouTube, or you can go to our website where we have a newsletter you can subscribe to. You get that every Wednesday, and it's a compendium of the research notes that we've written for subscribers. It's acquisitions and investments that have happened in the market, and also a bit about technology applications and new services coming to market. So let's get on with the first slide. So why now? What are the three forces that are converging to make drones actually scalable today? We know that they've been tested in pockets for different applications, but this is more about, can we actually scale this type of technology? First, maturity. The technology is no longer just about these kind of hobbyist quadcopters, right? We now have autonomous flight. You can have advanced payloads on drones, such as thermal and LiDAR sensors. And there's a lot been done on the kind of AI side of it, where we can actually, take the data from the different sensors on the drone and turn that raw data into actionable insight. Second, very importantly, the regulatory environment. And that has definitely moved on. So, for example, the FFA's remote ID is now enforced. That's creating a safer and more transparent airspace. And also, beyond visual line of sight, waivers are expanding. And that is super important for covering things like large properties or large campuses, a lot of ground. Thirdly, urban permitting is opening up. So, for example, cities like New York, which were once off limits, they are now issuing takeoff and landing permits. So that's a signal that drones are moving away from this kind of gray zone that's difficult to understand, more into actual infrastructure and ways of operating. So what does this all mean? Well, the kind of net effect is that drones are moving from this more ad hoc, one-off flights to a more structured, scalable programs, and that actually, really will add more benefit in terms of real estate use cases. So, obviously when we think about drones in commercial real estate, it's far removed from global conflicts. But we can't escape the fact that the war in Ukraine has accelerated drone technology in lots and lots of different ways. Really, it has, completely changed the face of modern warfare. And I don't think that's an exaggeration. And some of those technologies developed are going to spill directly into other areas. So, for example, those battlefield scenarios have definitely tested, or stress tested, I should say, drones for resilience. So then we're able to handle more interference now, harsher conditions, longer missions. And that means that, in general, drones are just now tougher and more reliable. And there are improvements in things where, they have to navigate complex environments with less human input. And also they're being mass produced at cheaper cost now. But also on the flip side of that, drones are more capable around resisting things. So they're more capable of resisting jamming on the battlefield, and actually that could make them harder to control in scenarios where they might be misused. So that is something to think about when we're developing policies and safeguards and that kind of thing. So I think the takeaway from this is really just that the Ukraine war has unquestionably, I think, sped up drone innovation by years. And whilst commercial real estate, it's just one industry where we can apply drones, and these advancements will be felt over many, many different industries. So whilst that's a positive, it also means we have to manage those new responsibilities that come with that as well. So let's look at some of these use cases. When we talk about drones in real estate, I think it's helpful to think of them as mobile sensors. So we're all familiar with video surveillance cameras, occupancy sensors. They are allowing sensing to move around and be able to go around a property and capture data and feed that into existing operations. So first example, maintenance and inspections. A drone is very, very capable of flying up and down, for example, high residential, high rise commercial building, and capture thermal imagery of the facade. And by doing that, you can spot water intrusion under the cladding, for example, and also cracks in the facade, and that's all without scaffolding. So you can imagine, the cost you can save without having to do inspections that require scaffolding. And it's also about the time periods that you can do it. With drones, it allows you to do these kind of inspections much more frequently. Not only so it's not only just the cost on the one-off basis, but it's also then allowing you to look at inspections over periods of time. So, for example, if you did spot some water ingress, you could track that. And you could manage that. So it might be, you could actually get away with a few months of not doing anything about it until it became a bigger problem. Drones will allow you to do that. Second, energy operations. Drones can, for example, scan rooftop solar arrays with thermographic cameras. And you can identify strings of panels that are underperforming and calculate what that lost generation might be. So that's going to let owners look at fixing specific faults, which are going to eat into the yield. So, for example, with a large solar array, especially one that might be hard to get to on top of a roof, you can see the benefit there immediately. It's going to, again, allow for consistent maintenance and also fixing issues as they arrive. Thirdly, I think one of the most interesting use cases for me is safety and security. Drones are increasingly being used as first responders. So when, let's say, an alarm goes off in the middle of the night, a drone can be used to go and validate that alarm quite quickly, stream the video to security staff without having to send them there. So that's also improves their safety, but also reduces cost, of course. And then based on that additional information, that alarm verification with the video, you can decide whether to actually dispatch guards or emergency services. It can also be used at incidents, and I've seen examples of this, where you may, as a first responder, go to an incident and you can use the drone to gather additional information. So you may not have a good visual representation or good visual understanding of exactly what's going on in that area. You can put a drone up to gather more intelligence and also give a wider picture of what's happening in the area. Also, perimeter patrols. I think that's a really obvious use case, right, of that kind of ongoing patrolling that might be done by man guarding. That's a use case there where you can use drones to do that and save money. Lastly, indoor in warehouses, drones can autonomously fly down aisles and scan barcodes at height and verify inventory against ERP systems. So when you're doing looking at inventory, that can save a lot of time of manual counting and also reduce errors. This was something I picked up the other day, an example of using drones with 3D modeling. And in this example, it's a bridge inspection, which you can see where they've then highlighted cracks on that bridge. So within the 3D model, this is then you can highlight those cracks. And as I said before, it's not just cracks, but also signs of water intrusion, and engineers can get a much quicker and a clearer picture of the overall structure, so the overall health of that structure with this information. And of course, it's cheaper than the alternative of having to do manual inspections. I'd say, like AI, that's one thing that right now AI is really good at, right? This kind of pattern recognition, being able to spot things like cracks, and identifying it, whereas the human eye is not so good at it. And then monitor that over time. So you may do this one flyover and looking at it, inspection, and then do it in another month, do it in 6 months, and you see what's happened there, what changes have been made, what cracks have grown, what water ingress has grown. Just to dig into that indoor use case, this is becoming a more mature application, and actually, it's a really indoor flight is a really interesting part of this because it doesn't come under the traditional FFA rules for obviously drones being used outside. That sort of Part 107 FFA rule, which we can come on to later, but that governs only the national airspace, does not apply to indoor flights. So it actually makes the adoption of drones indoor much more simple from a compliance standpoint. And these type of drones that they're using are fully autonomous. So these kind of like drones that can have a docking station, can stay there, and you can program them to fly at particular intervals, generally at night, right, when there aren't staff around, and carry out things like safety audits, checks on on pallet barcodes, etc., flag locations of different products. So, ultimately the point being then that you can you can reduce the amount of shrinkage and also have fewer errors in your inventory calculations. And this is being tested by IKEA. So one of the companies that we will show in our landscape mapping is Verity, and they have deployed indoor inventory drones at IKEA warehouses. They run these kind of routine flights after hours and keep inventory of all of the IKEA stock. And can you imagine, it frees up a lot of staff time. Verity is one of the companies that has received quite a lot of funding in this space. So I think currently they've raised a Series B round, and their funding is about 43 million. So yes, it is, what IKEA are doing is not fully at scale. It's a pilot at the moment, but it's not a future concept. It's something that is being done now, and we'll see if, for example, the IKEA roll that out to all of their operations. Yeah, so I wanted to talk about CUAS, or what is known as counter unmanned aerial systems. And, it's a very, very important part of this subject, airspace risk, essentially, right? the threats that might come from things like hobbyists who are just flying drones where they shouldn't be, are more serious risks, like payload drops near critical sites. Actually, in the US, private organizations cannot jam drones. So the FCC forbid signal jamming. And under the what's the Preventing Emerging Threats Act, there are only specific federal agencies that can actually do that can jam drones, like the DOJ and the DHS. So what does that mean for someone like a commercial real estate owner who wants to develop a drone program? Essentially, you're going to have to focus on detection and forensics. So that means making systems that are going to detect, track, and log drone activity, and then deciding if that needs to be escalated to law enforcement or. So it's really about less about interdiction, jamming. It's more about awareness, documentation, and coordinated response. A good example of where this is coming together, Axon, company best known for body-worn cameras and various other public safety tools. They acquired a company called Dedrone, who are a counter-UAS company. So I think there are signs that there's going to be more integration of drone detection with broader security ecosystems as well. So as I said, just to recap on that, counter-drone measures is not just about jamming and taking drones out of the sky. It's really going to be, at least from a commercial real estate point of view, about policy, detection, and partnering with authorities. So, again, super important issue, compliance and permitting. So, when we're talking about scaling drones, compliance is not optional. It's foundational to this. So, at the federal level in the US, everything is flowing from FFA Part 107. And that means making sure that every pilot is licensed and understands the limits on aerospace, on flying at night, or operating over people. Waivers are available, but they take planning and documentation. Second, remote ID. And that's been required in the US since March 2024. So you can think of that as really a digital license plate for drones. It's what essentially is going to enable advanced operation and ensure accountability when it comes to the airspace. And then thirdly, permitting, urban permitting. Cities like New York, you can't just go and launch a drone from the sidewalk. Operators have to apply for a permit to take off and land. And that can now actually, in New York, can be done via a portal. And then you also get information about what community notice rules there are, and I guess what's happening, and at what time you can operate and when you can't, and all those sorts of things. Finally, and as I kind of alluded to earlier, for indoor operations, those FFA rules don't apply. But that doesn't, of course, mean that it's just a free-for-all, right? Your company policy and safety standards are going to have to come into force there. So, you're going to need SOPs for training and doing risk assessments of flying drones indoors. So just to summarize on those points, you're going to have to keep drone pilots current under Part 107. You're going to have to implement remote ID across any fleets of drones that you have, and you're going to have to build permitting into your operations for each jurisdiction that you want to work in. So we did a little mapping here of what the vendor landscape looks like. So this isn't this is non-exhaustive. Like, I think anyone out there, if we've missed any vendors, feel free to add them in the comments and tag them in so that everyone's included. Let's see the ones that I've already mentioned. So I already mentioned Verity there, which they're being used indoors. Percepto has got some nationwide FFA waivers. They've had a big Series C funding round in 2013. They're focusing on energy ops. On the security side, mentioned Dedrone. They've been acquired by Axon. Prior to that, they had over 60 million in funding. And Aslon, they're doing drones for patrol and alarm response as well. And then maintenance and inspection. So companies like Drone Deploy, again, very well funded and have made some acquisitions. So the key takeaways. I think drones are helping us shift from these periodic manual checks to continuous data-driven oversight. So as I said, really think about drones as mobile sensors, rather than having to wait for inspection or have to do manual alarm checks. You can have a live picture of building health and security. Secondly, I think the biggest near-term wins are with safety and alarm response, and also of maintenance, not for assets like facade or even the example of bridges that I gave. Thirdly, successful adoption starts with governance and data. So you've got to get the compliance right. You've got to get the policies and the data workflows right. At that point, then you can think about scaling with docked autonomous systems. And finally, I think we also don't want these to work standalone, right? We've for too long in commercial real estate, we've just had loads of different silos of data and different systems. I think integrating where drones are going to work best is where you can integrate them into your existing systems. So that from a security perspective, that's going to mean your video management software or PSIM software, or maybe more from the maintenance perspective, CMMS or building automation, building management dashboards. So, obviously, try to focus on use cases that are going to move, that deliver that ROI, and build from there. So I think with these, there are pilots out there, and I think, whilst it does perhaps drone still feels like a technology that isn't a nice to have. I think there are some real use cases out there which can drive some ROI. Yes, before we go, I wanted to mention a couple of things. So we are updating our video surveillance report for this year. This is the old one, so this is what we're updating. And as part of that, we are going to include a section on drones and their application in security and safety. So that's going to be published in about a month or so. So stay tuned for that. And final thing I wanted to mention, we have started a new series of videos for subscriber only. If you do want to subscribe, go to the website and you'll find details about it then. But we have just recorded a video, which will be up in the next week or 2 weeks, which shows you how you can build a course for onboarding new employees. So you can use memories data, augment that with large language models, and basically create individual bespoke courses for new employees to get them up to speed with the smart building industry. So you may be trying to onboard somebody, who's IT professional, let's say, but is new to the smart building industry. This would be a way to get them up to speed quicker and make them more productive. Okay, so let's see if there's some comments and questions. We've kind of running out of time here, but let's see. Yeah, there's one question here. Have you noticed any notable partnerships and or M&A activity between drone firms and more traditional video surveillance firms? I mean, there are, let's say, quote unquote, traditional video surveillance firms that do have drone offerings. I'm thinking like some of the Chinese manufacturers, for example. And I gave the example of Axon as well, who maybe not a traditional video surveillance firm, but do manufacture body-worn cameras, well known in the US, and they're investing in drone technology as well. So yes, I think there are notable examples of where video surveillance is taking this seriously, and I think it's a natural avenue for them to explore for safety and security applications. Let me just check YouTube as well, see if there are any comments there. All right, well, we've kind of run out of time here. So if you do have any comments, feel free to put them in the chat here, or you can email us as well, support@memory.com. Happy to take any comments or questions, but really just to say thanks very much for listening. And see you on the next one. Bye for now.